Hello, and here we are with the after show afterthoughts with my Jamie Rose. See, I told
Oh.
you, isn't she pretty? I'm telling you. She's talking about, oh, I'm old now. Oh, please, I'm not thinking about her. I mean, she was absolutely fabulous. That was a quick 30, 40 minutes, and we're going to do it again. But I really, really wanted to get you on the air, and I wanted to be able to do the video with you because I want people to really experience your energy. I want them to know that I know you, that that how the arts has really evolved in your life. And I know you may not consider yourself theater royalty, but I really do. You descend from that. And what is important about theater is the most important thing. And what you said, how they exemplified the discipline and the success of the working actor. That's the most important thing. Everybody wants to be no, 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 and they lose really that impetus of why we got into the business in the first place, all the pleasure in it, all everything like that. So thank you, my love. Thank you. I'm
Yeah, just to talk about that craft thing a minute, and I now remember the name of the theater I was trying to remember on the podcast was Playmakers Rep.
okay. Playmakers rate.
Playmakers. So, but and just to briefly reiterate in the podcast, I talked about how I had a kind of what was for me a profound experience when I was around 40 or late 30s, even though I'd always worked in TV, mostly in LA. A lot of the actors were just under trained, really. They got it because they were pretty. I mean, there are plenty of people who are talented, but just a lot of people didn't have those habits, those
Types.
wonderful
Yeah.
habits.
Yeah.
Half hour, you're on time, you show up to rehearsal, you
Exactly.
learn your lines, that kind of stuff. And I
Hmm.
was raised with it, and so I was kind of born a professional because that was where I was.
Right.
But when I did this play at Playmakers out of Hollywood at Chapel Hill, North Carolina, the resident equity company, they were theater professors by day
Yeah.
and actors by night. I thought, what a great
That's a great
thing.
gig there. That's a
but
great
but
gig.
also, this one actor, his character had to play the shell game, the thing where, like, where's the marble,
Yes.
where's the marble, and
Exactly.
he would sit there after teaching all day in rehearsal. He'd sit there when he wasn't running his scene wasn't being done, practicing the shell game, so he would look like he really knew how to do it. And I was like, no one's paying him TV show money,
Exactly.
and he
Exactly.
just wants it to be as good as it can be. And
Yes.
that to me is the most beautiful thing about the actor.
Yeah.
And
It
and
is.
that everybody, and that is, you can trickle out to everything. That kind of discipline and dedication, it's a
And you
point of
use it
pride.
throughout your whole life. The thing about it is because people say to me, "Well, how does it feel to be on Broadway?" I said, "It's the same way every time I hit the stage. It's not Broadway. Broadway's a street. You know, it's an economic area, but the tools that you use there, you use everywhere. There's no Broadway performance and off Broadway performance and regional theater performance, and there's a performance, and you bring that
Exactly.
discipline wherever you go. So I
Exactly.
haven't been on Broadway in a long time, but I could walk on that stage in a minute because I'm there every time I hit the stage.
Hmm.
That's what I believe. Some people
That's
might
that
think, "Oh,
excellence.
that's a little arrogant, Lenny, don't you think? I mean, you haven't been there in a while."
No, it's
No,
because it's a craft. It's like if I was a
exactly,
baseball player practicing my swing all the time, I could hit the
exactly.
ball. Now, I could never hit the ball, and I would never be a baseball player.
I know exactly what you mean. The thing
Yeah,
about it is that you just really you once it's like the bicycle when you get on, you get off. Theater is theater is theater. Now, what makes the difference in the level of it is the people that you work with
yeah,
and for.
yeah,
They're the ones that make it really professional or
yeah.
pedestrian. And
Yes,
so therefore that's but I try to, as you do, bring that with me wherever I go. So I want the bar to be higher. I start off the relationship saying certain terms that they can understand that these are the terms that we use as lesbians in the business. We are doing this for a living. This is not a hobby, and we really want this to work. But all those same things people apply in their regular jobs.
absolutely. That, the fact that I had that training, and I really had it really more from my parents. And then because I did work on series, and I had a thing where I was late to work one day, I overslept, and I just saw that they had moved on to another scene. But I
Uh,
remember I first acting teacher actually as an adult I was 19. It was Nina Foch, and you guys could look
Oh
her up.
yeah, Nina Foch,
Foch, old
Ten
movie star, you
Commandments.
know.
Ten
And
Commandments. Yes.
I was living in Fresno, went to high school in Fresno, California, which is Central California, and she was in LA, and my parents drove me down, and we were late. And as I arrived to her theater, I saw her Rolls Royce pulling away Foch on the back, and we ran after her, please come back, please come back. I drove from Fresno. And she just like, that's when you're like, you're late, bye. There's no, and so the same discipline, the same work ethic, you know, it's why I was able to do other jobs, why I was able to teach, why I was able to put together a syllabus and figure out how to do raw HTML, creating online courses.
Exactly.
Get it done. You learn your lines, you're on time. You're actually, if you're 15 minutes, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late.
Exactly. You know? Yeah. I mean, you know, people think, well, I got to be there a half hour, 7:30. I went, no. I'm there like 6:30, 6:45.
I've always was so early.
And, you know, and that way, by the time everybody's in there, you're like this. Okay, well, I'm ready to go now.
I'm home. Exactly. My makeup's done. I'm chilled.
I don't need, you know, I don't need all the noise. I don't want anything that I had to do to warm up. If it was music, if it was a chant, if it was anything else, that was done so that I had that moment and in my area. And if someone needed to knock at the door at half hour, they could do it. You know, I was done with that because then it was on their time, but I had to get there and get centered. You know, I was in our play. I was always there. I was there. And I was
so good. You were heartbreaking. You were so good. And she was like, she pulled out every single performance.
Yeah. Well,
Anne was great. And was my little roommate, dressing room roommate, and kind and generous and supportive, and killer performances every night.
Well, thank you. And you know, but the opportunity, I think what people don't understand is that we don't get a lot of opportunities. So when you get an opportunity, it's priceless. You don't want to, Lloyd used to say, when given an opportunity, never turn down an opportunity to perform when someone asks you. Now, of course, you know, if it's not the role that you want, now let's start, you know, but he's talking about the opportunity that you have. That's something. And in these days, you know, there are not a lot of great roles, but those things that you do get a chance to do and you have a passion for them, it's absolutely fabulous.
You know, my bulk of my career was mostly television, some film, very little theater. But now that I kind of, you know, I gave up the TV and film part because the roles that I was getting offered to audition for just were not interesting to me. Exactly. And my life is so much more interesting. I know I joke about the age thing, but you know, I'm 62, so I've got, you know, I've got more time behind me.
It's what you look like, and neither one of us look like what they think that's supposed to look like. You know, so then what happens is that because they know where you are, they're going to offer you these things that are terrible instead of thinking about what you can do once you get into the work. But also,
this is another whole discussion about the dearth of women's roles. Viola Davis talks about where's the love sex scene with me? Exactly. You know, what woman who looks like me.
I have played so many best friends, and it's generic. I have no connection to anything else in any of the movie. I'm just the best friend.
Why am I not getting the Meryl Streep role? That kind of stuff. Exactly. But what I was going to say is, you know, I don't miss theater and film. I mean, I think it's fun. I love some of my performances. And of course, you know, Spielberg said, I'd like you to be on the show. I'm like, I'm back, you know,
and you'll do it.
Retirement over. Here I am. But what I miss is theater, because the most fun to me is when something goes wrong in the theater. That's like the transcendent. You're like, I remember one time I was doing a play. This is my last play, actually. And this whole play was leading up to me having this very big, like 2-page argument with my husband character. It was the climax of the play. And it was and I went up, and the guy playing my husband looked kind of green. And I'm like, what's wrong? And he went, and he ran off stage throwing up. He had food poisoning. And suddenly I'm on stage, supposed to have this big scene. There's 3 other actors on stage. One of them had been always upstaging, but this particular night he goes, I'm going to go check on Phil, runs off stage. So the one you could really use his mugging and exactly. I could have used him. He's gone. So I just like, well, Tammy, what do you think about it? But my first thought was, I thought, this is going to be really interesting. That was my first thought, because I know the show must go on.
Exactly.
I didn't know what was going to happen.
Exactly.
And it was like cool, where it gets to like, woo, it's like a roller coaster. Well, let's go.
Exactly.
And then he ended up coming back in probably 3 minutes after throwing up, but it felt like an hour. And of course, the theater, the New York producers were there that night,
Ah,
naturally,
of course they were. Of course they were. Yeah, as fate would have it. As fate would have it.
That was the
You know.
night they came.
Yes, of course they would. Well,
Yes.
my darling, look, I'm going to let you go because, we have to move on and do the things that we have committed ourselves to do. But you have been absolutely fabulous this evening. You look fabulous. Your energy is exactly the way it was when we were together in LA. I can't wait for us to be together in the same space. And wouldn't it
Yes.
be if Spielberg doesn't have to call both of us, they just needs to call one of us so the other one can be in the film too. I know.
Exactly. I'd be rather being applauding
Oh
actually.
no, 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 no! It would just be fun to have that moment again. It was. There's some people you want to work with again, and then there's some that you don't.
Mhm.
But yes, yes, but there are those that you do. So I want to say to you, uh, thank you so very much for doing this with me. Thank you so much for being my friend all these years. We
Oh,
will see one another. The pandemic has made it a little difficult for all of us getting around and doing everything, but we'll work through that. We will. And
I
hang
love
on
you.
after I say goodbye to our audiences for doing. Just hang on for a second for me. So I want to
Okay.
thank you, everyone. This is my Jamie Rose that you hear me talking about it all the time, my sweetheart. And thank you for listening and looking at us at the After Show Afterthoughts. Bye bye now, and I'll see
Bye.
you on the radio.